Well, thank you very much for having me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I chose Fandom. I have always been trying to understand what is a fan and why is fandom so important. So when we came up with the theme of barnstorming and traveling baseball, I just thought, gosh, there's something in there for me. So people don't understand or appreciate how sports may say, I'm sorry about that, start over. People who don't understand or appreciate sports, they may say it's just a game, right? But cultures express themselves through sports, which makes them essential to any well-functioning society. On a macro level, we see that sports help to unite communities. And on a micro level, families and friends together, or friendly competitions. Fandom isn't just a hobby. It creates communities that bind people together through shared passions and experiences. We saw that through the Heritage Trail. Thank you, Ryan, very much for that. In women's baseball, we see that fandom plays a pivotal role in encouraging support for the teams and players and fostering for the teams and players, fostering this sense of belonging among fans. The concept of family in relation to baseball highlights how generations can bond over a shared love for any sport. It's essential for us to think about these relationships and connections and how they can influence our engagement with women's baseball, passing down traditions and values centered around teamwork and perseverance. McPherson said in 1975 that a committed sports fan is one who invests time, money, and emotions into a sport. They have some knowledge regarding some sport, and they may experience altering mood states while consuming it. And my perfect example is, I was watching the Bears game last week, and I couldn't tell you how many times I stood up and said, throw the ball. And this is what my puppy did. He looked at me like, what are you doing? So to those individuals, sports is so much more than a diversion. It involves levels of intensity and excitement, leading to increasing heart rate, emotional arousal. And it also, an interest in spectator sport is often initiated and nurtured during childhood. And I can tell you myself, when I was growing up, I learned how to score baseball when I was 5 years old, watching the Cubs game with my dad. And we lived on the south side of Chicago. I was born and raised in White Sox town. But I scored games on watching the Cubs. So that's why I'm a Cub fan. But women's baseball deserves attention, not just the sport itself, but for its cultural significance and the empowerment that it provides. How we support these athletes means advocating. Yes. So fandom's roots. When I think about fandom's roots, it's really about storytelling. Fandom's roots are deeply embedded in our culture, and it dates back all the way to ancient civilizations. These societies would converge to share myths and stories, to create a sense of community through oral traditions. We do that. This demonstrates how the human need for storytelling has always fostered a shared identity. The concept of fandom has, again, that deep roots. And when you think about it, you start from a local community support to international followings. Fans have played a pivotal role in the growth of various sports. We start them from regional sports teams and events where local pride was expressed. When we examine cultural beginnings of sports, it's fascinating to see these roots. So such events as the Olympics, for example, weren't merely competitions. They were celebrated rituals that embodied civic pride and collective identity. A brief story. I'm sorry. I'm just getting a little nervous, so I apologize. So we saw in ancient Greece, citizens not only witnessed athletic prowess, but they engaged in a shared experience. It fostered community bonds. In Rome, the same thing occurred. We saw them even in the evolution as we move forward, the early 20th century did mark the formation of organized sports. It transformed sports into consumerism, right? The advent of the radio, the advent of the TV during World War II. Baseball was vitally important to the American spirit. As we moved into the 50s and 60s, the TV changed everything. Nowadays, as we start thinking more about that, sport fandom has a dynamic ecosystem, and it's heavily influenced by social media and streaming, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, let's think about it from the women's historical context. Women's baseball began in the late 19th century with, again, the formation of teams, and it was driven by their desire for athletic expression and participation. And we know this, showcasing this determination of women in a male-dominated sport. But the highlights include barnstorming, which significantly expanded the audience engagement. The establishment of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League was a watershed moment. While men were away at the World War II, women stepped up to the plate. Interesting, in this stage of the AAGPBL, it was a time when travel was limited due to gas rationing during World War II. So a question to think about and consider is, why did fans initially attend games? A majority of them indicated that the entertainment value was important, and as well as their love for baseball and sports. Others desired to support the local teams. There was friendship, it was low cost. A quote was, "It was exciting. We knew all the players, we knew their records." The All-American Girls Baseball Professional Baseball League sustained popularity for all its seasons. And we saw that over time, evolving societal perceptions and media support contribute to that broader experience as we consider it. So as we think about fandom, women's baseball, again, we saw it serving in greater significance. It challenged gender norms, but there became more of a cultural movement, which then led to what we consider as feminism. You know, the film of A League of Their Own immortalized the athletes. Fandom culture enhances women's baseball, and it creating this vibrant community where fans actively participate. And I teach my students in this one class where we talk about the realms of the experience, and there's 4 E's to that. We need to look at the experience ourselves and consider, where are we in the experience? So we are a customer participating, right? But we're also customer connecting. So participants play key roles creating the event that yields the experience. You might play a sport, you might go to a sport, but it's part of that realm to actively participate. It not only boosts a sport's visibility, but it elevates the profession of women's athletics. It allows more stories, more achievements to be told. And it drives interest just straight in for women's teams. Family is essential for fostering a passion for baseball among young women. And you'll hear about that in the next segments today. Family involvement, when we think about it's a passion for baseball among young women, we all have a story to tell about what got us interested in baseball. By supporting their daughters in sports, families instill values such as teamwork, discipline, strengthening family ties, creating supportive environment. And so as we're thinking about that, I want to bring you to this picture. And I was the one that did the videos with John Kovac, and he's much better at I am at this. But when we were doing the videotaping, I saw these in particular. And I know if you were here right before lunch, we showed these videos. But these 2 pictures in the exhibit that we have currently at Rockford University, this doll is displayed, but there's a letter also. A teenager, Bonnie DeWeerd of Hudsonville, Michigan, who was a big fan of the Grand Rapids Chicks team. One of her favorite players was Doris Satterfield. Bonnie's mom helped her create the Chicks uniform for a doll with a hat and the number 4 on the back of the outfit. And again, when you think about what we do and what we have and the influence that fans have on players, there's a letter that's on the other side of it. And there's a picture, and I didn't get a hold of the picture, but right to the other side of the doll is a picture of Dottie holding the doll. So the ability for that fan to impact and influence that team player, and then the team player to say, acknowledge the fan. The letter there is from, there's lots of letters, that was from Ziggy Ziegler. But again, when you write letters to the women in baseball, they responded back. I just think this was really exciting and really, it impacted me deeply. So I just wanted to share that part of it. Now, media, think about being a fan. You can watch it on TV. As sports began to professionalize the fan base, it expanded more of who was watching. We had the radio, the television, as we talked about it. Fan loyalty was global. It got bigger and larger because of the global reach. In the modern age, the rise of social media and digital platforms has transformed how fans interact with sports and create communities, even across the world. And I can promise you, I can wear my Cubs shirt no matter where, and people are going to recognize it. And I can tell you I was in New York wearing my Rockford Peaches hat, and people were happy to see it. It's just, this is our reach. But the impact on fandom is great nowadays. TV revolutionized the way that we engage in sports. By broadcasting games directly into our homes, it created this immersive experience. Again, back to the realm of experience. This accessibility allowed fans to form more emotional connections with teams and players, resulting in intense loyalty and fierce rivalries among different fan bases. And I could go on and on about those rivalries. The digital landscape that we can think about has really heightened fandom to new heights. With the advent of the internet and social media, fans are no longer passive observers. They actively participate in creating content and communities. Platforms like Twitter, Instagram, or X, enable direct connection and interaction with the athletes themselves. This transformation fosters inclusivity and diversity in fandom, and it allows voices from various backgrounds to celebrate their teams collectively. So what does that mean for us? Look at the impact of technology. 50%. The rise of social media has transformed fandom interaction by 50% of people that start up on or join us on X, Instagram, things like this. This shift allows us to real-time communication. Streaming services account for 30% of fan engagement. I can't even think about it. I mean, you go any day of the week, Thursday night, Friday night, you can find a sport. But what frustrates me is, where can I find the games? If you don't know which day they're on, which one, if you don't have the right streaming service, but there's still, again, it brings a global opportunity. Finally, when you think about 20% of fandom exists specialized online communities, forums, blog posts, Discord is another channel. These platforms encourage deeper interactions, and they support a niche interest, enhancing fan experience and belonging. So this next one really kind of looks at the demographic reach. And I know I have multiple sports on here, but I found it interesting. And I just want you to think about this. Demographics plays a crucial role in understanding our audience engagement across all different sports. Think about gender distribution in football. While it has a majority male following, significant female presence there and a growing interest. Basketball has increased. We saw that. And I wonder what the Caitlin Clark effect has done to that fan base. Soccer stands out still with an equal gender split, emphasizing a universal appeal. Just remember that universal global appeal. But I think it's not based on just the United States because it's not as strong of a sport as it is. Hockey's male dominance hints at challenges in reaching female audiences, and it suggests targeting programs. So modern trends. Social media platforms allow for real-time discussions. They create this vibrant community where fans can express their opinions and shared experiences and engage directly with players and teams. So if we think about this, it's important to highlight how immediacy fosters a sense of belonging and participation among fans. And it's interesting when you think about that immediacy, what does that mean? But if you're on social media, how many times a day are you on it? Again, if you're a fan and you're looking for Kelsey Whitmore, you got to find it. Beyond traditional viewing, fans today crave immersive experiences. Technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, these are redefining fandom, which allow fans to step into the action. Personalized merchandise tailored to individual preferences. If you don't stand up in this room, it turns the lights off, so I apologize. Thank you. We need to think about encouraging the audience to think about their own experience as fans and how these trends may enhance their engagement. And think about, I mean, what is VR doing for us now? You know, how do you experience it? I think there's a lot of opportunity. My son has talked about that a lot lately, you know, just that experience. What's the future look like? So as we consider the future of fandom, it's essential to explore the potential that there is for growth, as well as that's given by technology. Think about AI. What can AI do? We can anticipate a shift towards a more personalized experience for a fan, allowing them to engage with their favorite sports in new and innovative ways. However, this technological integration is going to come with a challenge. We need to be careful that we maintain authentic connections among fans, as over-commercialization can dilute the genuine excitement from sports. It could also separate us or reduce that relationship building. It's vital for sport organizations to stay attuned to the challenging expectations of fans. The needs and desires are going to evolve. And the understanding of these shifts is going to be key to successful navigating of the future landscape. And again, when I think about, you know, I'm a Cub fan. There is nothing like going to Wrigley Field. I can't experience that same thing in a virtual reality. Can you? Any questions?
Well, Cathy, I had a comment. I was just going to put it in. I was just going to put it in the comment that maybe AI could create a continuing fan experience for me as a fan of the Oakland Athletics. Since I'm losing that. So
I was just going to say, yeah. So what happens? How does the fan experience change when something horrible like that changes, right?
Exactly.
But yeah,
exactly.
I mean, in that sense, you may never, I mean, what if that happened to Wrigley? I can't even imagine it happening to Wrigley. But
right?
Yeah, what if it happened?
This has been a very interesting conversation and lots of food for thought. Amy points out that there's a 60-40 split women to men as baseball fans. That's very interesting. And Maureen says, yes, maybe AI is a good location for a women's team. Is that what you meant, Maureen?
Not so much AI, but maybe Oakland is a good location, you know, for a women's baseball team. Why not? You know, because people are desperate and they're really, you know, angry. So I'm thinking, hey, why not?
Good point. You know, we do have the Ballers and Kelsey Whitmore's pitching with them. So
yay.
Yeah. We've got plenty of time for questions, folks. You can put it in the chat or you can
Looks
speak
like
up.
Joshua's hand is raised.
Joshua, I don't see that. Thank you for keeping an eye on that, Cathy.
Hey, thank you. I'm Josh Burstein, longtime SABR member. I'm in Eugene, Oregon, although originally from New York, so a Mets fan, as Leslie knows. My question, actually, I'm really glad that Amy put in the chat what she did about that 60-40 male-female split. I'm kind of thinking or wondering from an age standpoint, demographics, if you have a thought. And here's where I'm coming from. I have kids who are 21, 18, and almost 17. And so even before the pandemic, you know, so much of their life was online, right? And obviously since the pandemic, so much of all of our lives is online. And I think on one hand, that's a great advantage because we can, the fact that today we could be joining together the way we are, or that even you can join people from other countries or other parts of our country, et cetera. But the last thing you said really struck me about VR is not the same as being at Wrigley Field, you know, or in my case, Shea Stadium, may it rest in peace, or whatever. And I wonder just what your thoughts are going forward, because there are advantages and disadvantages, I think, of, you know, as I pointed out. And I'm just wondering, as the youth, I think of my kids' generation and the kids after them, you know, how will that change fandom? So much is online, so much is not in person. I think we're losing something because of that, but maybe gaining something too. I just don't know. So I'm curious about your thoughts.
I think there has to be a creativity with the fandom experience. How do we get the fans there? When I was, I actually for a year worked for the Cubs. That's my dream job. But now I'm like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So the commute kind of bites. But I think about that, you know, when you go for the fan experience and you go there, I mean, you're talking, you're going to pay how much money to get in. If you're taking your kids, you want them experience it. And I think it's challenging the cost of it. Except like I can go to next Friday's game. Oh, wait, I am going to Friday's game and I'm paying $30 a ticket, you know, so that's like cheap. But that's why I think what's happening now with more, again, you have the local sports, you have the regional sport, you have the international sports. The local sports are gaining in fandom. You know, we're where the Rockford Rivets are, we're where the Ice Hogs are. And so those are getting, the stands are full. When you go to watch the women's baseball World Cup, you know, the goal is to fill the stands. So we're seeing, I think, as we're thinking about barnstorming or fandom, we have to think about what is that, how are we connecting? What does that level look like? And how can we continue? I think that places or communities need to create better opportunities, ones that are a little bit less, I think less expensive, but you can get, like I said, this year, the Rockford Riverhawks, which is our Northwoods Wooden Bat League, I mean, they filled. It's the first time ever they filled. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity. We have to be, and I think part of it is taking us in there. Our passion has to be to get out there, you know, but I guess I should never have said that the VR is bad. It's not bad. I just don't get into all that stuff. I just can't because I don't have time. But I think that because you have to go where the kids are at. How do we get them interested? You know, show them a game. If you're using augmented reality or using, I mean, even look at some of the PS5 games, or, you know, you can buy Madden and you can buy FIFA and all that. And it's big business. There's this relationship. The only way to create this relationship, though, is through the fan and the player, or the fan and the team. And so teams have to do a concerted effort to continue that relationship. Otherwise, you lose them. This is why, I don't know if anybody is here from Chicago, but this is why the White Sox want to move, because their fan base is very challenging. They've lost their fan base. So and it's not the same as what's happening in Oakland. Oakland has a strong fan base. Does that make sense? Answer your question, okay?
There's some interesting comments, Cathy. One, Lorene said something about people who don't go to games don't know what it's like to go to games. And Cecilia comment about online spaces give people a way to feel part of the fandom and the community experience without being able to get to the actual stadium. I've been thinking recently about accessing access to games online or through TV. I have cable TV, so I can watch local baseball. Other people, other areas have to subscribe to specific services to watch their team. And this seems to be the way this is all going. Any comments about that?
I think it's a challenge. And I don't know if any of you have had that experience, but that's why I think the streaming services has been incredibly challenging. Like, I can't watch the Cubs games unless I pay $20 a month to Marquee Network, but that's the only thing I watch on there. Yeah. If I watch it. But like in New York, I know it's the same way. So you can't watch Yankees unless you're watching the Yankee station. But I think you know, oh, and the other thing, like Thursday night baseball, Friday night baseball, Thursday night, I think is on one channel, Saturday and Friday's on another channel. But if you don't have the MLB app, you don't know what channel it's going to be on. So I think that I don't know how good that will be to retain fans, I guess is the best way to see it. That's the way I see it. I just see it as very confusing, very cumbersome, very challenging. And I don't know how, I don't think that, I mean, I'd rather listen to the game I can hear the game, but I have to pay for the game if I want to watch it. So.
Right. And Amy makes a good point. Streaming services are great if you're out of market, but you can't watch your own team like on the MLB TV. Leslie made a good point of, trying to attract a younger, a different audience with what Major League Baseball did recently, highlighting the Negro Leagues. I think they did a really good job bringing all of that to wider attention. But I think a lot of thanks goes to the work of a lot of Negro Leagues baseball historians and researchers who have been doing so much good work to bring all of that information to light. Thank you, all of you who are on the call who do research. Really appreciate that. Let's see what else is going on in the chat.
Had her hand raised.
Laureen.
Yeah, thank you. I just think this conversation is really good, and it plays off a session at SABR in Minneapolis. People were on talking about like streaming versus all the ways to watch, but we can't hardly get the games in, there's only specific ways to get the games. And the guy, I think he might have been the GM, someone high up in the Twins, said, I mean, his kids and grandkids will never watch a game because they only stream. Right. And if you can't get it streaming, you can't get it on MLB local, they're never going to watch a game. It's like for me, like jumping to another sport, but like for this guy, I can hardly watch any Sky games. So I can watch every other game, but I want to watch my game. So I don't understand the benefit of blacking out hometown, whatever. But I think as long as these old white men are in charge who don't understand technology, they won't understand how many people they're losing by not streaming games. We should be able to stream a game sitting next to Wrigley on our phones. There's just no reason we can't do that. And they're losing so much revenue. But the one point I wanted to make, the one guy said, they have to decide between reach versus revenue. You want to reach younger people and grow the game, or you make more money now the way it's set up. But then going forward, 10, 15 years, do you have the fan base because they never watched it as a kid because they couldn't get the games?
Yep.
Thank you.
That's all about the dollar.
I feel that is the movement. Instead of being strategic about it, how do you create an experience in each of these realms, or how do you create it so that there is sustainability? There is no sustainability with streaming services or with these. And I agree with Cecilia. It's about the money too. Yeah.
Am I missing any other hands? Cathy, do you see a bigger screen?
No, I do not.
Any other comments? This has been really interesting. As you know, I like to say baseball gives us many gifts. IWBC and SABR and the Women in Baseball Conference and all of you are certainly part of those gifts, and I very much appreciate you. We are going to take about a 15-minute break now, and then we're going to come back to one of my new favorite parts of this conference is my baseball story session that Kat's going to moderate. So I don't know, are we going to play something during the break, Cathy?
I certainly could. Yes, I will.
More of the museum exhibit would be great. That's really intriguing. I sure wish I could get there. But it will be in Rockford until the end of the semester, correct?
Correct.
And I also, before I forget, want to give a plug for the conference program that Leslie sent out yesterday. It is a really nicely done document that includes the program and lengthy bios of our presenters, as well as a number of stories from folks about their baseball and traveling baseball experiences. So please don't save that link or save that document so you can go get back to it and view it at your leisure. So Cathy, thanks again. Ryan, thanks again for an interesting presentation. Remember, all of these are being recorded and will be posted on the SABR site. Jacob Pomrenke, thank you for all of the work that you do with that. And we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Thanks again.